Puzzles. They come in many shapes and sizes, and here on the Cardboard Herald, we have a long history of covering the sorts of narrative escape room in a box adventures that have grown in popularity over the last 10 years, but still to this day, for the general audience, if you say the word puzzles, the first thing that comes to mind is this: jigsaw puzzles, which are great for some people. I mean, I've done my share, on a family vacay or throw down some cardboard as a contribution to an office break, but in general, they fall outside of the scope of this channel. Except when they don't, because today we're talking about Pandora's Legacy, a new puzzle tale by way of Jigsaw Puzzle meets Where's Waldo, that's co-designed by Alex Rosenthal and Post Curious founder and chief game designer Rita Orlov, which, suffice it to say, this box is a complex layer cake of code, ciphers, keys, and other brain burners slathered in Greek mythological frosting. And while I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers and certainly not give away any solutions to any of the puzzles within, context is important, so there is going to be some locked content that is going to be shown in imagery in this video, though because you don't have context for that content, then you won't have context for what it really means, so I think you should be relatively safe. If you absolutely must avoid all spoilers at any cost, then we'll just leave it to say that it's good, great even, especially if you love lengthier adventures or are super into jigsaw puzzles and these sorts of mysteries. But if, like the rest of us, you want a little bit more information, let's actually dive in to what is this game. When you first crack open Pandora's Legacy, you find a series of boxes in curious size and order, and little else other than a very welcome large fold-out map and instructions to go to the TED web app for the game. Yes, it requires an app that can be accessed from pretty much any device as the mechanism to check solutions, obtain clues, and receive instructions to open boxes. Fortunately, so long as accessing from the same device, you can save progress, which is crucially important because even after reviewing each of Post Curious's releases since their founding, this was the most time-intensive review project in terms of sheer gameplay we've ever done. Maybe it's because Mrs. TCbH and I aren't expert jigsawists, maybe because it's full of just as much content as any other prior game Orlov has worked on, just with the added step of often completing more sections of the map before getting on to other stuff. Which brings me to one of my chief criticisms of the game. If you're like me and you don't want to dedicate every day to puzzling, you're going to have to make some choices about what furniture you're going to dedicate to this puzzle for a few weeks. In my case, I'm fortunate to have a separate dining table from a primary gaming space, and even then, I have the added convenience of a board game table that could come in clutch as we leave the puzzle underneath the toppers and can play our other games, a luxury not everyone has. Anyway, back to the puzzle itself. So your first task is going to be to assemble the central mass, the world map, and quickly you'll start to notice little curiosities as you're forming this thing, not just the voids around the periphery, but you'll start to see certain themes coming up in the imagery within, strange jigsaw shapes that may have additional connotation or meaning that are drawing your attention as you're assembling them, or even some discrepancies from reference to reality that you might notice here or there. In the app itself, as you answer questions, you unlock additional tasks, sort of like quests, which some are done following a set path, others can be done in any order. You'll quickly notice 4 sections of the map missing, which is where the game breaks off into 4 different thematic domains to be conquered. Without giving too much away, the narrative, visual, and physical development of the puzzle is expertly crafted, and generally each of those new sections is going to involve additional jigsawing to complete, though frequently also presenting new physical objects, totemic knickknacks to also be used in puzzle solving of various sorts. These tend to be surprising, strange, fascinating, and most importantly, multifunctional. I'm really happy with how these weird curiosities get integrated repeatedly throughout the game. Now, the puzzles themselves, as in the weird narrative riddles often employing physical manipulation, observation, and deduction, they are challenging. Some came natural, others not as much. Fortunately, the clue system in the app is very good at revealing small layers at a time to give you as much gentle nudge as you need until you feel confident you're on the right path. As always, I encourage liberal use of these, rather than trying to force yourself to figure it all out on your own. Every puzzle hits different, and each person thinks in different ways, so it's always hard to measure these things. But overall, the game strikes a decent balance between challenge and intuition. Only once did we find that we just did not get what the game was telling us to do, even with hints, and only upon having the hints reveal the ultimate solution did we reverse engineer the puzzle and how the hell we got there, which is what it is, and it did make sense when we were able to look in retrospect. We just, couldn't make it there on our own. I gave the feedback to the design team and encouraged some different clues, but even still, if that only happens once in one of these games, that really ain't bad. And as the game went on, our instincts sharpened, whether that's by design or not. Even more clever and curious things came more naturally, which gave the game a really satisfying arc. Probably my favorite of the puzzles had to do with transformation and discrepancy, kind of a slow con noticed earlier on, but only having their purpose revealed in retrospect. Something we noted, as in, actually put down in our notebook to not forget, and were rewarded when the information became crucial. It really represented the culmination of strong reasoning, narrative riddling, and the joys of image searches, and the fact of physically putting together the puzzle, forcing you to interact with and carefully consider fine details that otherwise might get missed. And without saying much more, the climactic puzzle is like, yo dog, I heard you like puzzles, so I added puzzles to your puzzles with puzzles. And the narrative is strong too, bringing a humorous yet reverent and brilliant and very well researched picture of Greek mythology, though even that had its own occasional bits of weirdness. There's a bizarre stripe of modern language in some of the narrative that feels a bit incongruent. I mean, sure, it's all displayed as a bit tongue-in-cheek, but many of the puzzles are downright poetic, evoking a sense of grave antiquity. Then you got Athena calling Apollo a total Chad during a soiree that feels more like prom, which admittedly is one of the more clever spatial puzzles the game offers towards the climax. And don't get me wrong, I'm here for Mean Girls Lyceum Edition, but there is occasional tonal whiplash that you're going to have to endure. But in the end, the narrative in these games really just serves as a delivery mechanism for sweet, sweet puzzles, and in that, the game did not disappoint. Pandora's legacy is completely unique and expertly used the jigsaw medium to cleverly conceal the deceptive discoveries within. The app is a strong point too, doing a great job at saving state and organizing this more open-ended adventure, and you'll want a well-organized companion considering just how long this might be on your table. If you're a Jigsaw fan and you're just cryptically curious, or you're a huge fan of puzzle tales and you have the time and space to account for a more epic adventure, and Pandora's legacy stands strong in this pantheon, giving something fresh and new while still treading on the best ideas this genre has to offer. And that's our review, but let me know, what is your favorite puzzle tale in this space? And if you were to see a continuation of this series, what would you like to see a next setting, a new mythological pantheon to put into one of these games? Put it in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, thanks for being such a great community. You know that I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald.